Hello, everybody. Welcome. And I am excited today to be joined by Nicole. And so many of you in the carnivore community know Nicole. And and I know Nicole from videos and from live chat, but I'm very happy. This is the first time I've officially had a chance to talk to her live. So I'm super excited. And we were just chatting behind the scenes about, how's the weather over there in Virginia versus here in Washington State. And I have to say, I'm actually glad I'm here because it's pretty darn cold there where you're at.
Thank you.
But anyways, so I want to give you as much time as possible because I know that I know I've got like a zillion things I want to hear from you, but I am really glad to have you on my channel because I know for me and my immune system disease, I've had to be really strict with carnivore, but I know you're very balanced in your approach. So I guess I just wanted you to kind of go back and kind of share your journey. What got you into your career in nutrition? How was your health before, and what changes have you made that have led you to where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for inviting me to chat. Similar, I've seen your videos, your plank challenges and all that stuff. Your form has gotten better. Yeah. And I've of course seen you around YouTube. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know you and finally chat. Um but I don't even know where to begin. So my health issues, what's up, Monica? My health issues may not have been as bad as other people, as far as all the things I had to correct, thankfully. But mine started when I was about 11. I usually just start there. Because that's when my brother passed away. I've always had a sweet tooth, but back in the 80s and early 90s, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet. Internet was just coming out when I was a teenager. So we were outside playing. We were one of those, you can probably relate. We were one of those
Oh
that 10
yeah.
o'clock, do you know where your kids are? We weren't allowed in the house, right? So
Well,
so
my feet were usually dirty because everything was barefoot,
yeah. So like I was very active. I was a tomboy. I don't know if that term is still used, but I was able to outwork a bad diet. My diet was crap.
Mhm.
My parents did make food. It was usually like meatloaf or whatever, thankfully. So I did eat meat, like chicken breast, meatloaf, and things like that. Um, but it was also they didn't cook. If I didn't eat their food, I was going to bed hungry because they weren't cooking multiple meals. But other than what they would cook, I would eat cereal. I would eat the
Right.
penny candies, the ice cream. I would eat all the chocolate. So when my brother passed away, that kind of got worse tenfold.
Mm,
So I started, I guess, eating my feelings.
yeah.
And because my parents, just lost their child, so they were dealing with their own stuff. I was 11, and unfortunately, most people don't check on the siblings or the kids. They usually just ask the
Right.
parents how they're doing. So I was kind of left alone. I didn't
Right.
know what grief was. I didn't
And
know
in
how
and
to
in our
grieve.
era, it was more common to not think about the kids' mental health.
Yeah.
It is a little more common now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I experienced at 11 a tragedy too with death, and nobody even thought of me. So I totally get that.
Yeah, so this was like 91. I was 11. I mean, I'm 43, so I don't mind aging myself. But yeah, this was in 91. So yeah, no one checked on me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know what the heck grieving was, because I was a kid. So I just my sweet tooth, I guess, my love for chocolate and sweets just got worse. So I kind of turned to that, and it kind of got out of control, um, to where I spent 14 years in the Air Force. My last year 13 to 14, we have to take our physical fitness test every year.
Right.
It's the in the Air Force. It's since changed, but when I was still in, it was a mile and a half run, push ups, sit ups, and then they tape your waist. So I passed everything and I busted tape. So I failed my very last PT test before I got out. Thankfully, honorable discharge and all that stuff, like that doesn't
Mhm.
count negatively against you, but I failed because
Yeah.
I was fat. I was obese. I think my waist circumference was about 37 inches. at the time, and women couldn't be more than 35. So that's where it started. And once you bust tape, they put you on the scale and weigh you. So I was about, when they weighed me, if I remember correctly, this was in 2015, I was about 170 something pounds at 5 feet short. So I was obese,
Yeah, and
borderline
you're
morbidly
tiny.
obese. Um, but I didn't stop gaining weight, right? Because there was a lot of years of bad habits. I just lucked out to where up until that point, I was able to outwork a bad diet. I was a military cop. I was very active. I was doing all the things. But once I got out of the military, I didn't have the structure. I didn't have people telling me to do things. I didn't have to get up at a certain time. I kind of lost the structure, and that's when my health started turning to crap. So I continued to gain weight. At my heaviest, I was about 200 pounds, so I was technically classified as morbidly obese. I had sleep apnea because of my weight. I had anxiety, depression because of, my childhood trauma. I had, and it would be bad where I would have to breathe in a paper bag to
Oh,
calm me down.
so it was
My
like
anxiety.
panic attacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had digestive issues I didn't know I had until I switched to low carb.
Mhm.
And then I had chronic inflammation, specifically in my knee for multiple knee surgeries. So I had, some things going on, but my main concerns were my knee because I wanted to function like a normal human being, and of course,
Right.
I wanted to drop the weight. Um, so I decided in 2020, because I live just out of Washington D.C., the pandemic happened. I was furloughed. I was a contractor with the federal government, and those who don't live or work for the federal government, what furloughed means is essentially you're laid off with pay. The government shuts down essential personnel only. So I was furloughed, essentially laid off with pay. So I kind of just worked out like a madwoman. I considered myself a professional athlete. I'll work out, you know, 2 hours a day because I had nothing better to do. I was getting paid to work out, and I just cut my calories, and I dropped
Oh,
about 50 pounds doing that.
okay.
Wasn't the healthiest thing, but I dropped weight. During that time, I decided to further my nutrition education and get certified. That's where I got my initial certification, nutrition and exercise nutrition, to help me continue to drop the weight. So I got that in June of 2020. I lost about 50 pounds by the end of 2020. And I decided to start my business to help people who were me, need to lose 50 or
Yeah.
more pounds, disordered eating, because there's not very many people who work with obesity and those types of issues who have been obese and had those types of issues. Um, but
So was this kind of a before and
yep,
an after?
yep. So in that picture, I had lost a little bit of weight on the picture on the left, but yeah, I
Mhm.
was. People say they couldn't tell I was as heavy as I was because I carried it, but you can. My upper body. I
Yeah.
mean, I was so big, but
Yeah,
I
you
think
look
I
very
lost a little
different
bit of
now.
weight when that picture was taken. So I wasn't at my absolute heaviest in this picture, but I was about 180. So I lost maybe about 15 pounds when that picture was taken.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I can tell. I mean, it's a huge difference. You don't look like the same person. I would, if I didn't know, I would look and see that these are 2 different people.
Yeah, it was, and you felt it too. Like, I have bad knees, like I said, multiple knee
Right,
surgeries,
right.
reconstructive knee surgery. I still have hardware in there, so I'm quarter bionic. But like when you have issues like that, especially in your hips, I have hip issues because of my knee. Um, that extra weight hurts. It's not very
Oh,
comfortable.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so when I got certified, I learned nutrition, and I've said this before about fiber. I learned a lot, biochemistry, basics, nutrient absorption, just the basics, but keto was your emergency backup system, so it's very lean and green.
Right.
So, I was afraid to go keto or low carb because we were taught that's not good, and I can get into why it's not good because there is truth behind that. It
Mhm.
depends on how you do keto, but I was nervous to do that because 'cause I've never eaten beef, very rarely. I can count on one hand how many times I had beef. I was
Oh,
very
wow.
lean, chicken breast, turkey bacon, and things like that.
Mhm.
So I was able to drop about 50, 60 pounds doing, what I was doing, but I was still feeling like crap. I still had anxiety, depression, mental health issues. I still
Right.
struggled with inflammation. I just wasn't feeling good. So I was like, "Well, I went vegan for 4 years. Why didn't that work? I'm lean and green. Why didn't that
Okay,
work?
so
Why am I still
4
feeling horrible?"
years you
4
were
years
vegan.
vegan.
Oh, wow.
What the health got me.
Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah. No,
So,
that
yeah,
documentary, What the Health, yeah.
what the health?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so it just goes to show that, weight is one piece of the puzzle, but you were still having inflammation and you were still having all these health issues.
Yeah, so I wasn't at my goal weight. I'm still not. I still have a little bit to go. I mean,
Mhm,
I had like 80 something pounds to drop total, but yeah, I still wasn't feeling good.
mhm.
So I was like, well, I've done vegan. That's supposedly the healthiest diet. I've done lean and green. That's what I'm taught in my training. I was like, I don't understand why this isn't working. So then I went to YouTube and I think I stumbled across Bart K and I binge watched his entire channel,
Okay.
Judy Cho, Ken Berry, and I was like, "Well, that sounds like it makes sense." So then I dug down the Google rabbit hole, did my own research. I was like, "Well, let me give it a shot. Nothing
Yeah.
else worked. Let me just try this for 30 days."
Yeah,
And
it won't
now
hurt.
almost a year later, um, I dropped more weight. So I'm total probably about 70 pounds down. So I have
Wow.
maybe 15, 20 more to go.
Okay.
But yeah, my anxiety, depression's gone. I have I don't have binge eating tendencies anymore. I don't emotionally eat. I do have I don't wanna say I don't have tendencies at all. I do have cravings. I do have, urges, and I can talk about how I overcome them and what
Yeah.
I do, but I still do have those urges every once in a blue moon, but I don't give into them. I no longer binge eat. I no longer do
Okay.
those things.
So
I
do
can
you
now go up and down the stairs. I
do
feel
you do
like
keto?
yeah, so I did carnivore, like strict 0 carb for
Okay.
maybe a couple months, but like I said in the beginning, I didn't have as much healing as everyone else did. Most people I think have, mental health, anxiety, depression, and all these things have become normalized. But everything I was going through or felt, even the weight, obesity, was because of my childhood trauma. It just all
Right.
kinda spidered. So, I did go 0 carb for a few months, and I couldn't do that for the rest of my life. I know me. I can't be 0 carb the rest of my life. My husband doesn't do what I do. I do like the occasional beer, like maybe once a month I'll have 1 or 2, low carb beers or a vodka drink or whatever. I That's just a lifestyle I wanna lead. I can't abstain from things for the rest of my life, and that's what I'm a believer in. If you can't do something the rest of your life, then we need to figure out how to incorporate things or how to fit things in your lifestyle, what that looks like. So for me, what that looked like was I was 0 for a bit just to heal, and then
Okay.
once I started feeling better, I added avocado, I added berries, I added cashews, which I don't eat that much cashews anymore, but I added small things back in. So now I would be, yeah, more in between ketovore and keto.
Okay.
I'm primarily, I would say 90% animal based. My carbs consist of, sometimes I'll have, like, glyphosate-free oatmeal. I found a brand that's, like, half the carbs and glyphosate-free, so I do
Mhm.
that every once in a while. But typically it's berries, avocado still. I'll have Greek yogurt. I add Greek yogurt back in.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I'll have a half a sweet potato, and that's just a choice. I don't want all that extra sugar, so I'll just have half. So
Okay.
I'll have half a sweet potato. Sometimes I'll have half a banana. Again, I don't want all that sugar. It's just my choice. It doesn't make me feel bad. I just don't want all that extra sugar.
Yeah.
So those are primarily the carbs I eat. Other than that, it's mostly just beef, Italian meatballs, eggs, dairy, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And so you
And I
do eat dairy?
Yep, so I eat Greek yogurt and cheese, and that's
Okay, and
it.
that's it. Okay.
Yeah, but I feel better in my 40s than I ever did in my 20s and 30s, and
Joseph,
it's
whose visual is out of focus? Everybody's, or is it mine or
Oh, did you
Nicole?
mean the photos?
Oh, is it
The
the
before and
photos or the
after?
actual video?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
Joseph, let us know.
let us know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the long and short of my story. It literally spanned most of my life from 11 to I'm still recovering, right? I'm still not at
Right.
my goal. I'm almost there, but I'm still recovering and it's a lot. I went through therapy and
You
it's
did,
just a
okay.
lot. But that's kind of like the watered down version.
Yeah, so you did end up going through therapy
Yep.
to go back and cope with the death of your brother. Now, was your brother
Not
older than you,
necessarily
or
cope. So a funny thing happened. This
Mhm.
is going to be the first time I ever shared this story.
Oh,
Um so I went on a oh, he said video. It looks clear on my end.
I got new glasses, so I don't know
Hold
if
on, let
it's
me pull it up on my channel. Uh, hold on, I'm just looking.
I just wiped off my camera. I don't know if
Oh,
that helped or not.
I don't know, Joseph, I'm sorry. I don't know
Yeah,
how to fix it.
I don't know how to fix
If
it
it is
either.
like
It
that.
looks
Monica or Mama Cracker, are we blurry? Are we clear?
Yeah, yeah, someone else let us
Um
know if it's clear on your end.
But, I am not very religious, but I did go on this women's retreat type thing
Mhm,
for a church that one of my girlfriends went to. This was during the pandemic or right no, I'm sorry, this was right before the pandemic, and they did this exercise to where they would say things in the Bible, and you would write whatever, respond to whatever question they asked, whatever.
mhm.
So, again, I'm not religious, I don't own a Bible, so I didn't participate, so my mind just started going,
Okay.
like, thinking about things, and I just started to free write. I just took that blank page of
Yeah.
piece of paper and just started to free write. I didn't know what I was writing, I was just writing.
Wow.
After the exercise, I went back and read what I wrote. It was all about my brother. It
Oh,
was
wow.
literally all about my brother. I cried for, like, 30 minutes. That's
Wow.
where I think I finally grieved, and this was maybe
Yeah,
5 years ago. That's when I finally grieved, so I felt like I grieved finally, but I
good.
still needed to fix my depression, anxiety. I still needed to fix my
Mhm.
outlook on life, how I see me, how I think other people see me, those sorts of things. So I went through cognitive behavioral therapy, and it
Mhm.
essentially just rewires your brain. My
Right.
therapist essentially said 90% of what I perceive is not the true reality. Like, I can't even explain it, and I use humor as a defense mechanism. I am a funny bastard. He did say that, but but those are things I did to keep people at bay.
Sure.
So it we kind of I went through that for maybe 6 months to kind of like rewire my brain, reframe my thinking.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily use therapy to grieve. I think I did that before therapy, but I used therapy to help my mindset and to help me just lead a healthier life mentally because it was not very positive the way I
Yeah.
saw everything.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad. Now, how much do you feel that changing your diet kind of helped with that versus the therapy that you were going through?
I don't wanna say it did all obviously, therapy, I mean, I'm a firm believer in it, and I'm not one of those people that says my diet cured everything because it was a lot of freaking work for me to get
Oh,
to where
yeah.
I
I've
am.
I've been through it
Um,
myself. I know it's a lot of work.
yeah, so I think the diet, it did help physically, obviously, and it did help. I think it does help your mindset. Well, not mindset, but your mental health because obviously excess carbs and all that stuff suffocates the brain, all these things. Yes. So I think my diet played a role in decreasing my anxiety and depression, and therapy kind of help my mindset while my diet helped my brain function more optimally. So I think it all worked together. I don't think the diet itself can fix everything. I feel like it's kind of like a compounding thing. There's multiple things at play. And for me, it was diet plus therapy plus, XYZ. For me personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I had gone through so much therapy, but that was back in my 30s. But I know that for me, and I don't know, it may be too that therapy, like there's so much emotional eating when you're not really getting the help you need for these emotional issues. And I emotional eating was a huge deal for me,
Yeah.
and not only because of the trauma that I went through as a child, but also just years of infertility and fertility treatments and failed fertility treatments and, you know, panic attacks. It's just, it just cascades and keeps getting, it's like an avalanche. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so, yeah, eating to me and therapy, like therapy helped, but changing the eating
Yeah.
kind of tied the nice bow around
Right.
it.
Yeah. It's definitely not it's a lot of things. It depends on what your struggle is, and it just depends. Like, a lot of people have the physical ailments, which of course the diet is mostly what'll, fix that, and of course, exercise and all that stuff. But when it comes to what you and I and a lot of other people are going through, it's more than just diet, unfortunately. So it just depends on where you're starting on what you should do, but you should definitely do one thing at a time and not try to do everything all at once. Like, I didn't do everything all at once. I focused on
Right.
one thing at a time. Um,
Right.
but it's a slow process depending on how much healing you have to do. Like, physically, I was just more so, just the standard digestive issues and the standard, inflammation with, the knee issues and stuff. But for me, it was mostly just being morbidly obese. Everything else
Yeah.
I had to heal was on the inside. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't so much on the outside, it was more so just my mental health and all these other things that kind of
Right.
caused everything else.
Right. So now when with all of your nutrition training that you've done and your coaching that you're doing with people, do you ever encounter the topic of the gut being the second brain?
Um Not really. I mean, it is. I mean, that's where a lot of those signalings come from. But no, I don't really get into. So most of the people I work with are obese, have to lose more than 50
Mhm.
pounds, diabetic and those sorts of things. So I mostly work with them on low carb and habits and behavior change. I do provide, obviously, education. I'm huge on that, but I don't get that in the weeds with things, because when
Mhm.
you are coming from that level of health, we need to bring it back to basics. And basics meaning,
Mhm.
okay, what's a processed food? What's a carb? What's this? That's mostly what I work with my clients on, not necessarily. I do education on, diabetes and how to manage it, why low carb helps, like, biochemically and all that stuff, but I don't get really in the weeds a lot outside of just hormones and just basic, when it comes to whatever their emotional eating or diabetes.
Yeah.
So that's never come up for me.
Yeah, it had come up for me sometimes as a GI nurse, a lot of patients, especially with irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
Um, it's amazing how many people do educate themselves. A lot of the patients really educate themselves. And the question would come up for me, occasionally about the gut and the gut brain connection is a real thing. And I don't know if that's why a lot of people that do change their diet can have healing from depression and anxiety because of that connection.
Yep.
Um,
That's part of it.
yeah, I'm sure it is part of it. So what are you seeing, like, as you went into now, counseling people and coaching people, do you see some kind of common challenges that people encounter that they just really struggle with getting over?
High carb.
High carb.
I just I mean, that's just it's just that basic understanding. So I went to brunch. My husband and I, we had a double date with a couple of my friends. We went to brunch on this weekend, and they were 2 of my clients, husband and wife team, and I don't work with them anymore, but they brought up nutrition. I don't talk about that when I'm just out in my everyday life. I don't talk about food.
Right.
I don't identify as my diet. So I'm not one of those people that always talk outside of YouTube and my business. I don't talk about food unless someone asks me.
Sure.
So they happen to bring it up. They happen to bring up, because I educated them on, the history of the guidelines. The husband was struggling with gout, he was struggling with, cholesterol, and then the wife, emotional eating, cravings, and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So they brought it up, and they brought up Dr. Gundry. Yeah, he's a lectin guy,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. He brought up Dr. Gundry and he said, the husband was like, I was listening to Dr. Gundry about lectins and all this stuff, plants, and he's like, this is what Nicole said. So I find that a lot of people struggle with knowing what to eat because of all of the misinformation out there, and I was taught the same dang thing, so I can't fault them.
sure.
But that's what I find that I try to unravel, is the concept of bioavailability, the way your body absorbs nutrients, which I was taught all that stuff. But even though you're taught all that stuff, they still tell you to eat your 6 to 8 servings of fiber. Women, make sure you get your 29 grams. Men, make sure you get your 35 grams, like all these things. But like it's kind of unraveling that, and I don't try to sway people to eat a certain way. I do focus on low carb with my clients.
Mhm,
If I can get them at least to 50, I am good with that. I try to get them as low as they're comfortable with, but I don't try to get them to carnivore or keto. That's
mhm,
not my goal. My goal is just to improve their health. So
yeah,
whatever that looks like to them and have it be sustainable. So I don't try to convince people to eat one way or the other.
mhm,
I just provide the information and just say, "Hey, I'm just providing you this information. Check out these videos, check out these studies, whatever, so you'll have all the information you can make an informed decision." So that's pretty much how I approach
mhm,
things, and that's how I approached it with my friend, the husband with the cholesterol, because he's going in, I think they said next week. And I'm like, cool. Let me explain cholesterol to you.
yeah,
Watch Ken Berry's video, watch this video. And I'm not saying ignore your doctor. I'm just saying so you have the other side and you can make an informed decision. So that's how I start approaching things. So
yeah,
I don't try to convince, I don't try to sway. I just say, this is the information, decide how you want to proceed type
yeah.
thing. Because that's
And
all you really can do.
is 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 there anything in particular that you find kind of people, like, you share with people and then the light bulb goes on and they're like, "Oh, I get that."
Yeah, when I explain how the body works, so I bring it back to basics,
Okay,
because me saying saturated fat is not bad or that's been debunked or whatever, that falls on deaf ears,
sure.
and people have a hard time wrapping their mind around that because we've been a low fat craze for 60 years or more.
Right. It's like
So
there's you and there's our government.
right.
Like
So what I started to do is I'm just like, "Okay, let me just explain the way your body works." I was like,
okay,
"Sure, your body's gonna make cholesterol. It's gonna get it one way or the other, but it's very minimal, right? It makes minimal cholesterol, but this is where we get our cholesterol. This is what cholesterol does in the body. LDL is technically not cholesterol. You only have one cholesterol. LDL just transports cholesterol through the bloodstream to the cells and all these things. It's a transporter. It's a lipoprotein. It's not technically cholesterol. Like so I just explain how where we get our nutrients from and and what their role is. So like carbs are
mhm,
not essential. This is what essential means in nutrition. Fatty acids and amino acids, proteins and fats are essential. This is what they do in the body. This is we need to get them from nutrition. So I just break it down to basics and that seems to resonate with people more. And I think the light bulb moment goes off when I start talking about how carbs are non-essential. We can make our own, we can synthesize our own glucose and those sorts of things. And I think that's where the light bulb goes off. So I just bring it back to basic human physiology and biology, like not in the
yeah.
weeds, just this is why they're important, this is essential, this is non-essential, and this is what they mean. And I just start there, and that seems to resonate with more people. I think because I think that's an easier way for people to understand things. And then I just give them some stuff to kind of just read on their own and some videos to watch and all that stuff just so they can kind of, learn at their own pace. But I try to bring it back to basics and simplicity without trying to sound like I'm trying to convince them to do something. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
provide, basic information on why I promote a certain thing, and that seems to resonate with people.
That's a good approach. I know for me that that was an eye opener too, because of what we're taught about fruits and vegetables and grains and everything, that we're taught it as if those are essential.
Yep. Yeah,
And
because people
yeah.
misunderstand what essential means because it's different in the nutrition sense. Essential doesn't mean important in nutrition. It that's where the terms, and I think a lot of blogs and all these things online from Dr. Google, I think they misuse the term essential and non-essential as well because
Mm,
you'll read things and they'll say carbohydrates are essential. I was like, no, because that's not what it means in the nutrition sense, and I think
I
that's
see.
where some of the confusion comes into play too, is they just misuse that word.
Okay. So in the nutrition sense of the word, is it safe to say that essential means you can't live without it?
No,
Or is
so
that
okay.
not, is that too loose?
Yeah, so non-essential, say like carbs, is a non-essential nutrient, right? So that means your body can synthesize its own amino acids. So proteins, they're part essential, part non-essential. So um, there's 20 amino acids, 11 of which are essential, meaning we need to
Okay.
get from food. Our body can synthesize, you know, 9 of the essential amino acids, but we can't synthesize these. So these amino acids are essential. The fatty acids the same. We can form, fatty acids, some fatty acids from other substrates, but for the most part, we need to get them from food. So that's what it means in the nutrition sense is we have to get those nutrients from our diet. Non-essential means our body can synthesize its own from other
Okay.
substrates like glucose. We can get from amino acids and other things. We can get it from fatty acids as well, but we can get it from other substrates in our diet. Same with cholesterol. We can get from other substrates in our diet. Our body can produce its own, but it's ideal to get your cholesterol from the saturated fats because we can only produce a certain amount of cholesterol depending on what our diet looks like and what we're feeding it. So that's why fatty acids are considered essential as a whole and
Okay.
proteins are considered essential as a whole because we can't synthesize our own, for the most part, fatty acids and amino acids. We can synthesize glucose, so that's non-essential. But when people
Okay.
think of essential and non-essential, they just think of, in the layman's terms, like important and not important.
Right.
And a lot of people misunderstand the glucose being the body's preferred energy source, and that's why they say it's essential because it's important, but that's
Mhm.
not true. Glucose is just prioritized by the body, not preferred, because it's fast energy and excess is toxic, so your body's trying to get rid of it.
Okay.
So there's a distinction there, but the word essential is misused as important because the misconception is glucose is preferred, therefore it's important, and that's how they use essential and preferred and all these things. It's just a lot of misuse of words and
Yeah.
misrepresentation.
Well, and it sends a message that I think so many of us have bought into, and it has guided our food choices over the decades. I mean, it's
Yep.
been quite a few decades of us eating a certain way and not really understanding that concept. Now, so can we get everything we need for our body from an animal-based diet? For those of us like myself who do zero carbs.
Yeah. Um, in my opinion, and I can talk about, ketosis as well because I think there's a misunderstanding with that too.
Okay.
But when it comes to animal-based diet, I always recommend a varied diet, so varied animal-based diet,
Mhm.
because if you're just eating beef, you're likely gonna be deficient in something. Like, there's iodine, for instance, right? You
Yeah.
get that in shellfish, poultry, eggs, and those sorts of things. You're not really gonna get much in beef, if any. So, there are
Right.
things that you can't really get in optimal form in just eating beef. But if you eat a varied diet, if you eat eggs is a good source of iodine, good source of nutrition. But if you eat more than just beef, then yeah, you can get a good source, calcium, dairy. but are you going to get what you need from beef? Probably not. So I always recommend a varied animal based diet. Don't just eat
Mhm.
beef, eat eggs, eat, chicken thighs or fish or whatever, to make sure you're getting all of the nutrients in optimal form. Um, because a lot of people supplement with iodine, but you really don't have to if you just eat a varied animal based diet. But most people just eat beef and that's it. And that's why they have to supplement. And I pick on iodine just because I
Right,
hear that a lot. But
right.
iodine you can get in eggs, you can get in fish, you can
Yeah,
get in certain things, but most people just eat beef.
yeah.
So, in my
Well,
opinion, no, I don't
we
think you can get
feel
everything from
many of
beef,
us
but you can
feel
get
the best.
everything from carnivore.
Yeah, many of us feel the best eating beef, and I know for myself, I mean, iodine has been an issue, um, because for me, I mean, I had to go on the lion diet, and I only went on it for 6 weeks, but I had to go on it because my immune disease was just I wasn't quite getting it under control with eating the full carnivore diet. So I did, but the problem I had was because of my histamine issues, and is that I tried the Lugol's drops, and as soon as I went to drink it, when in my liquid, my throat would swell. And
Ooh.
iodine is high histamine,
Yeah.
the Lugol's iodine. So it was a challenge for me. And so I know that that is something that I kind of wonder. Now, I think that doing the lion diet really got me to a point where I can tolerate a little more now when it comes to histamine. So I can actually do a couple drops of Lugol's.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I still struggle with eggs, like the egg whites. I
Mhm.
still struggle with dairy. So, I can't do shellfish because they're high histamine. So it's a little bit of a struggle. And I wonder
Yeah.
too, a lot of people with autoimmune diseases, that kind of like the Michaela Petersons of the world.
I think
Like,
she's
how do
added
they
some things back in. I don't think she's straight beef anymore. I don't
Yeah,
think.
hopefully. I know she had mentioned quite a while ago, I don't remember how old she was at the time, that she, doesn't have goiter, she's not having issues, and so I was
Yeah.
wondering, so are you supplementing iodine? Because I know iodine histamine is a big deal for her,
Yeah.
like it is for me. But, do you have clients that have histamine issues?
I had one. The problem is their doctor recommends their diet. So the problem I have is I'm not a registered dietitian, so I'm not a clinician, right?
Mhm.
So doctors, and I know this because one of my clients kinda confirmed this. So what doctors do, and you probably know this 'cause you're a nurse, what doctors do is if someone comes in and they're like, "I have histamine issues," or "I have, SIBO or diabetes," or whatever, they have printouts of federal guidelines of federally, backed diets and say, "Here's your food list. Here's what we recommend," and they
Right,
just give a stupid printout, right? The
right,
the pro the problem is a lot of those foods don't fix the problem.
right,
So, I had a client recently, the histamine one is tough because there's a lot of foods that have histamine, and depending on how you prepare the foods,
right,
um,
and
can
how
flare
fresh it
so
is.
yeah, so there's a lot more
Mhm.
that goes into histamine, um but when it comes to other digestive issues like IBS or SIBO, which I think is vastly underdiagnosed, I think there's a crap ton of people walking around with SIBO undiagnosed. I diagnosed
Yeah,
one of my clients with SIBO. I said, "I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose, but I think you have SIBO. Talk to your doctor about it." And she got diagnosed with SIBO officially. But she called me frantically because her one doctor gave her a diet recommendation for SIBO, another doctor gave her a different diet recommendation for another ailment. So she had 3 different diet recommendations that all conflicted with each other. So she called me in a panic, like, "I don't know what to do." I'm like, "I'm told not to eat this on this plan, but then I can eat that on this plan." It's a hot mess. So
oh,
the
yeah,
SIBO diet still has fiber, right? So
right.
it still has spinach and all these things on it, and I had to explain what SIBO is.
Yeah, so
Um
let's explain. So SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Mhm.
And do you want to talk a little bit about it and what symptoms accompany that in case people don't know about it?
Yeah, well, you're the nurse, you can probably do
Oh
it
yeah,
better
I mean, I
than
was a
me.
GI nurse, so yeah, I mean, a lot of bloating and gas and, just generalized discomfort are basically
That's
the
what I was gonna say. It's
big
very,
thing.
very, very uncomfortable. You know, diarrhea, like just all sorts of stuff. But she pretty much had every symptom.
Yeah,
Um, but her diet was still, fruits, vegetables, and those sorts of
right.
things. It just limited the grains and stuff. But the problem is your gut bacteria feeds your fiber feeds your gut, right?
Mhm,
Your gut microbiome can shift with your diet. So if you're
right.
eating low carb, keto, whatever you're eating, whatever variation of low carb you're eating, you're likely not eating fiber or a lot of it, so your microbiome is shifting. So you might lose some bacteria in the process, and that's where people think that they're intolerant, but they're not. It's just the foods that they introduce are not agreeing with their new gut microbiome. But
Mhm,
see, that's what SIBO is, and that's why it's an overgrowth because you're overfeeding your gut bacteria with excess fiber, and over time, that's what happens. You overfeed it, and just like we get big, right? That's what happens to your fiber. They multiply. They like have all these colonies, and they
yeah,
just like spread like wildfire, and then they just overflow into your small intestine and all this stuff and cause issues. So the recommendation should be to eliminate all fiber, go zero fiber, to
mhm,
normalize your gut bacteria and your gut microbiome. Unfortunately, doctors still recommend diets
right,
that contain fiber that's
right.
causing the problem, but fiber is recommended, and that's part of a balanced diet, and that's healthy, and that's good, and that fits all digestive issues like GERD and and IBS and all that stuff. Like there's still a disconnect there, but that's
Yeah,
what feeds the gut bacteria on our
yeah,
current.
and fiber is such a huge, part of the recommendation. Anybody
Yes.
with gut issues, and they'll if you try fiber and you don't feel better, then they'll, "Let's switch it to a different type of fiber
Yeah,
and
if
see
you're
if that
older
helps."
if you're older in a nursing home and can't stomach, regular fiber, they'll give you liquid fiber.
Yeah,
It's a huge problem. But that's what SIBO is, and a lot of people I think have it. And that's why like fiber is not good contrary to popular belief. It's not good. And granted, I eat berries, I eat avocado. I'm not saying I eat zero fiber, but I
yeah,
eat way less than 29
lot
grams.
less. Right, 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 and I know that a lot of people that have SIBO do have a history of a lot of use being on antibiotics, and a lot of times that's kind of the triggering thing is they've been on courses of antibiotics, which can throw off your gut microbiome, and then the diet doesn't help, and we I used to see people all the time who would go through the whole full workup with the GI doctors, and there'd be nothing,
Yeah.
you know and it's not easy getting the test necessarily because insurance doesn't wanna pay for it. You need to do this
For
hydro
SIBO?
for the hydrogen breath test.
Oh, yeah, there's also the poop sample.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the preferred test is a hydrogen breath test,
Yeah.
and insurance typically won't cover it. Um, yeah. Oh, see, just even Renee said, "I think I have SIBO, but doctor wouldn't test." Yeah. That's what I found is that I mean, it depends on the doctor. But a lot of doctors would say, "Nah, nah, I don't think they have SIBO." And but if you're willing to pay for the test yourself, it's a few $100.
Well, a lot of doctors probably don't even know what the heck SIBO is. Like, I'm wondering because it's like it's not that I don't know. I think she went undiagnosed for so long with complaining about issues, and it wasn't until I said something that her doctor's like, "Oh yeah, let's test you for SIBO." So I'm wondering how common knowledge that even
I mean, I
is.
know among the GI doctors, they're very, familiar with SIBO,
Yeah,
but there are places that are actually experts in SIBO.
gotcha.
And, it's kind of like a little side thing in the whole realm of the GI
Yeah,
department. So I found that, I worked 7 years as a GI nurse, so I found a lot of times that it was the patient who would bring it up, um, which was kind of unfortunate.
mhm,
Given the history that so many people have with poor diet, a lot of, being on antibiotics for various things.
yeah.
Let's see. So let me just look at the comments here. So Ellie's here. Hey there,
What's up, Ellie?
Ellie.
Oh, what's up, Lambs? Lambs is here. Renee's here. Joseph's here.
Yeah,
What's up,
Lambs are
people?
asking Renee questions about the findings
Findings?
from the probably from the, oh, he was willing to run all kinds of other tests. Yeah, and she said she's better. He said she's better on carnivore. That's
Yeah.
good. And wants to know how long does it take to heal SIBO?
Ooh. I know my favorite registered dietitian. Lynn, do you know who my favorite registered dietitian is?
I have no idea.
Abby Sharp. So, Abby
I
Sharp.
don't know Abby.
What? You have to go back and watch my
Okay,
videos. Okay.
I'm gonna write that down. Abby
No,
Sharp.
I really want her on my channel. I don't think I've done too many reaction videos. I don't think she's gonna come on my channel. But
Oh yeah. I actually watched. Okay, I know
yeah,
who she is.
I really wanna help her, honestly. I really, really do because she has so many issues, but SIBO, okay, so she has SIBO, and I think she still does, off and on, struggling with this issue, not changing her diet, but her doctor put her on this SIBO diet, and I think she was supposed to be on it for, I think 3 weeks? So I think it just depends, but I think for her, the couple times I covered her, I think it was just a few weeks that she was supposed to be on this diet to kind of help normalize things. But I don't know if you have a more definitive answer, but I
You
just
know,
know just from, the YouTube.
I know that there's a course of treatment which includes a very, very expensive antibiotic
Yeah.
that the doctors might put you on. But there are also a couple of herbal alternatives to that, and I think from what I can recall, it takes probably I think about 6 weeks
Yeah.
of being on it. But you know, I haven't found any doctors doing the dietary approach to it. More, they'll just throw the medication at it, you know, from the realm of where I was working.
Yeah.
It was just okay. When we did get people that got officially diagnosed, it was like, okay, here's the medications. Take these
Yeah.
medications and let's see how you do. Um, so it's kind of the traditional approach is there's a pill.
Yeah. And Renee asked, wouldn't carnivore eventually heal SIBO? Yeah, I mean it should because you're changing your gut microbiome and you're not overfeeding. So like what happens is you when you eat a lot of fiber, right, your gut bacteria gets really, really happy, and and you're feeding the colonies. They're literally colonies of good bacteria in your gut, like pockets of bacteria in your gut. And just think of every time you eat a lot of fiber, your gut bacteria, they're having little gut bacteria babies and they're multiplying and all
Mhm.
that stuff. That's truly what's happening is you're just multiplying the colonies that are in your gut because they establish colonies, literally like pockets of bacteria like all over, kind of like, yeah, and that's just kind of like tribes. But that's what they're doing. So if
Yeah,
you eliminate the fiber and allow your gut to change, your gut microbiome to change, then yeah, you're not gonna overfeed your gut, because those bacteria no longer exist over time the longer you do
yeah,
carnivore and don't eat fiber. That's what it means. Your gut microbiome changes. Those bacteria start to die off and new ones form, um but not in abundance like they are with fiber. So because that's what happens when you eat fiber, we'll say soluble fiber, that's what you fart, right? That's what you excrete, methane gas. That's what you fart. So
mhm,
it turns into a gel-like substance. It gets fermented by bacteria. So you're feeding your bacteria. The bacteria gets fermented, it turns into a gel-like substance, and then you excrete the excess as gas. You toot it out. And then this insoluble fiber is what just adds bulk to your stool, and it's like essentially in whole form. But it's the soluble fiber largely that's fermented by bacteria that's really feeding your gut. So that's really what's doing it, and that's why you fart, 'cause it's getting rid of the excess, but that's after your gut ate,
yeah.
essentially.
And when you think about it, the bacteria are little living organisms.
Yeah,
They have waste products.
yeah,
I mean, it's like you're all the more bacteria, you have the bacteria you have your bacteria, you have opportunistic bacteria. So basically, if you give them the right environment,
Mhm.
these opportunistic bacteria are going to reproduce,
Yeah.
which is what Nicole was talking about.
They're
You give
gonna
them
have
all this
little
fiber.
bacteria babies.
It's like, yes, they're gonna have all these bacteria babies. It's like, yeah, like Renee said, dang, fiber is like fertility drugs. Exactly. So, so they're gonna reproduce. And when you have too many of them, you're gonna have their waste products too in your gut. And so I know a lot of people too, as their gut microbiome is changing, so you may like cut the fiber out and you get this die off of all of this excess bacteria. You can maybe feel a little worse at first
Yeah.
before you feel better because you've got all this die off of the bacteria. So
Yeah.
yeah, diet is a huge deal when it comes to SIBO and irritable bowel syndrome. I know that in all the years I worked in GI, there was a lot of people that like irritable bowel syndrome, they get the diagnosis of IBS, but then the recommended treatments wouldn't work. And the next thing to think of is SIBO. And
Yeah.
it's almost like the doctors didn't really think of them like at the same time. They'd think of IBS first.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's go see if we can get your IBS controlled. And then if the patient would come back and say, I still don't feel well, then they would be, okay, well, maybe let's look at SIBO.
Yeah.
So I agree. I do think it's a lot more common. And I think that the reason why the doctors approach it that way is because the thought is that it's less common.
Right.
And so the thought is, well, let's just treat the one that it's more likely to be
Mhm.
at first, which I mean, I guess it makes sense. But if you think you have SIBO and you're willing to go pay for the test to get it done, then, get the test done and see.
Yeah. I
So
think, Renee, that's funny. Dang, fiber is a fertility drug. And then Lambs was like, as soon as you dump the carbs, the bacteria population in your intestines will retract and get out of the small intestines. That's right. Yes.
yes, absolutely. Let's see. I missed that. Yes, they will dump and get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be worried if you feel a little worse before you feel better, but it
Yeah.
shouldn't take that long. I know it doesn't take very long.
Mhm.
Um, all right. So correct small intestine is almost sterile unless you eat tons of sugar and vegetables, etc., than ending up with SIBO. The whole gut is not sterile. It's not that it means that it's unhealthy, but the gut from mouth all the way to the bottom is not considered sterile. I mean, your it's it's your waste, you got waste in there. And so that's why even like when you do a colonoscopy or an upper endoscopy, um, it's not, they're not as concerned about, I mean, they do sterilize the scopes that they use, but it's not like surgery.
Yeah.
Like if you go into surgery, you need to go into a regular operating room and everything is sterile and the doctor's scrubbing up. And, if they open you up, they have to create a sterile field around you. That's because if they cut through you, you're going into sterile territory. But when it comes to things like GI, colonoscopies, upper endoscopies, you do it in a regular exam room. It doesn't have to be sterile because your GI tract is not considered sterile. I hope that answered
Yeah,
that.
I think I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not sure that I don't know if sterile was meant in that
Those
like
terms.
cleanliness term. I'm wondering if it was meant because your colon, your large intestine is supposed to, that's where things go, right? Like if you look at someone with an external bag who had their colon removed, that's you would see like a whole pineapple in the bag, but
Yeah.
that's what would land in your large intestine. It's not supposed to land in your small intestine. I'm
Right.
wondering if that's what.
Breaks it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also
I'm
these
wondering if that was meant with this
yeah,
comment.
clarify if clarify for sure, what you were trying to say. Cause I mean, of course, I'm looking at it from a nurse's perspective. So when I
I
hear
know. I'm
sterile,
glad we have a nurse on the stream, a GI nurse nonetheless.
but here's something though. The stomach acid is supposed to kill off your bad bacteria.
Yeah.
And so one of the problems we have in our Western society is so many people are on acid blocking medications, proton pump inhibitors, H2 blockers that block the production of your stomach acid. And a lot, if you go to the doctor and you've got, acid reflux, you've got some dyspepsia, a lot of times they'll put you on a proton pump inhibitor.
Yeah.
And those block like 90% of your stomach acid. And if you look, like if you go and you actually look at the potential side effects, some bacterial infections, intestinal bacterial infections are potential side effects because depending on, this cleanliness of where you eat, that medication is blocking your acid, which typically would kill off bacteria
Yeah.
before it
And
could
help
hurt you.
break down the food and all that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like the overuse of these medications, I think, is also contributing to getting some of that bacteria that normally our stomach acid would kill off down
Right.
into our intestines.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they can be opportunistic. Some of them can cause infection, but others are just into opportunistic and they can contribute to overgrowth.
Fertility drug, Renee, fertility drug.
Oh, let's see. So Renee says, I didn't eat any sugar and rarely ate veg, but 95% of my diet was carbs. A lot of ruffles, or is it ruffles, were killed in my lifetime.
Oh, potato chips?
Potato chips. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, like I said, I was vegetarian for a year and I had tons of potato chips and I had tons of pastries and
Oreos?
bread and oh yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
dark chocolate peanut chews? They're vegan.
Oh yeah. I mean, sure, I was vegetarian. I ate very few vegetables, but yeah, no. So, okay, so as you're also okay, so I want to show people, I'm sure everyone knows your channel, but I want to go and pull it up anyways. Let's see here. Oh, I still have your thing count pulled up. Okay. So, this is your YouTube channel, Former Fat Girl.
Woo woo.
All right. And so you've got a whole bunch, and I know you do a lot of reaction videos to people who are preaching a different message or maybe a similar message, but there's a little bit off, which I find is really interesting to watch.
Thanks.
And you have lives. Okay, so you got some upcoming lives here, which is good. You'll have to catch those. There's us.
Yay.
And carnivore and fitness. So and I want to go over and also show your website.
I don't even know if my website's updated, but yay, we'll find
I'll
out
show
together.
you which one you're link levy to. So this is the website.
Oh,
Is that
yay.
so you're how did you come up with the name of Dark Horse Nutrition?
One, it sounds cool.
It
Two,
does.
it kind of means, kind of like the underdog type thing, so
Okay.
it goes, like, with my, transformation story, and my cousin, by marriage, but, my cousin actually designed the logo for me.
Oh, cool.
And the lotus flower is one of the half sleeves I have on my arm, my mom and I have.
Okay.
Um, we got mom and daughter tattoos, mine's just bigger and on my arm.
Okay.
But we got the lotus flower tattoos, it symbolizes, rebirth, and it was after
Oh,
I finally grieved, um, the loss of my brother. We got it when my mom turned I think we got it on her 60th birthday. She's
okay.
how old am I? 43, she's 64.
Okay.
Um, so we got it 4 years ago together, but yeah, so that's why the partial horse is coming out of the lotus flower. So it all
Nice.
ties into my journey and story.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So so your certificates, I know you have more than one certificate. So what are your certificates that you have?
So I have my basic nutrition education and nutrition and exercise nutrition. Those were the first I got. And then I have emotional eating psychology and I'm trained in senior nutrition. So specifically,
Okay.
individuals 65 and older, because a lot more happens when you get that age. So your diet has to change and all that stuff. So yeah, so those are the three areas I'm educated in. I focus more on the emotional eating side.
Mhm. Okay. So when it comes to seniors, have you dealt with any seniors that are trying to do like a carnivore or low carb diet? And if so, what type of struggles do they tend to have?
Um, the problem with seniors, and I don't mean to sound mean, but they just don't give a shit. I'm just they just don't. They get to that age and they just don't
Interesting.
care. If they want their Coke, they want their Coke. They just
Right.
don't
I
care.
want
Their
my ice
parents
cream. I'm getting old. I'm going to
yeah,
enjoy the rest of my life.
their kids care more than them. So
Right.
that's problem 1 with working with seniors. That's why I don't work with them that much anymore.
Mm,
But you're also undoing so they're the ones who were around when this whole low fat craze started. So they're they have more years of that,
true.
brainwashing. So when I did my workshops and talks to senior communities and those sorts of things, since I did that for like a year straight, I would just, I was contracted with home care companies and communities and stuff. I would give my workshops and I would talk about fat. And I would get a lot of pushback like, doesn't that cause heart disease? Doesn't that call this? The common thing you hear. Um, so it's very hard to work with seniors, and there's another aspect of that. But thankfully in one workshop I did, I was talking about saturated fat and the importance of it and how I eat and stuff like that. And someone raised their hand and said, I just had brain surgery and my surgeon actually suggested that I eat more fat. It's
Mhm.
like, thank you.
Mhm.
But the other aspect of that is seniors, when they get to that point, they're aging old and frail. Like, our senior population now are so unhealthy, it's
Yeah.
unreal, and I was passionate about it for an entire year, and I had to stop because it was a brick wall. Senior communities, nursing homes, and those sorts of things, they have to have, by law, a registered dietitian on staff.
Right.
They're the ones that come up with the menus, and the problem with that is I would look at the menus, and it would be lean and green, it'll be
Mhm.
no fat, and it would be plant-based, like, they would have alternate meat burgers and stuff like that. That's not what they need.
Right.
Like, Alzheimer's and dementia is a branch of Alzheimer's, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of branches of Alzheimer's, but a lot of cognitive issues are branches of Alzheimer's. It all leads to
Right.
that. Um, is largely because of their diet, like, that's not normal, but I kept hitting brick walls because I couldn't change anything. I couldn't get around that. It was very hard, but it's not gonna change, unfortunately, because registered dietitians rule that world. It's
Right.
unfortunately, once a senior enters that, I hate to say this, I hate to be doom and gloom, but it's all downhill from there. It's not there's nothing they're the ones coming up with the menu, and there's nothing gonna change unless they change that requirement, which is likely not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
it's sad, it makes me sad, but that's just the reality.
And I've heard, you know, interviews about how much you can actually have improvements in Alzheimer's if
You can
you do
yes.
the low carb and higher fat and
So, I'm not a cognitive health specialist, but I did do research on this and just my basic knowledge. We all know that our brain yes, we need glucose. There's no denying we need glucose, right? The problem is our brain is largely cholesterol, saturated fat, cholesterol.
right.
That's what makes up about 60, 70%. Those percentages vary depending on what your source is. So 60, 70%, I usually just say. So largely fat is your brain. The other part is glucose. So there's no denying you need glucose in your body to function optimally. The problem is when you are recommended the standard American diet. And when I say standard American diet, I'm not talking processed foods and all that stuff. I'm talking what's actually recommended, the food pyramid.
Great pyramid,
It's
yeah.
still a high carb diet. It's like 60, 70% carbs.
But it is more
It's
whole foods than what most people eat.
right. But even if you're eating processed foods, it's still a high carb diet.
Yeah.
So whether you're looking at the standard American diet and the food pyramid or the standard American diet, what people eat, yeah, it's still processed food. It's still high carb. But regardless, when you're eating high carb, the problem is that excess glucose is toxic in the body, but it's also toxic in the brain. What happens is it suffocates the brain cells to where your brain cells are unable to release oxygen into the bloodstream. So you're literally suffocating the brain and killing off brain cells. And that's where these cognitive issues come into play. And ADHD, ADD, dementia, Alzheimer's, anxiety, depression, all these things can be mitigated or at least reduced. I'm not saying it can fix everything, but it can at least reduce the symptoms or reduce the likelihood of getting those things
Yeah.
if you just feed your body um fat and saturated fat, because that's what glucose does. At least what I've learned in the brain is it causes the brain cells to be unable to release oxygen into the bloodstream. So you're literally eating excess glucose, you're literally suffocating the brain,
Suffocating your
and
brain.
that's how these issues happen. These issues just present itself differently in different people, but it's all the same cause. It's all rooted in the same issue, and I'm not saying diet can solve everything, but it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And the way our seniors are being fed, they're just continuously feeding the problem, and that's why they're not getting better.
That makes a lot of sense, and I mean, and I know how hard it is with seniors. I mean, my parents are deceased, but my mom lived to be 91 and she had Alzheimer's, and, getting her to eat well, getting her to eat something that she didn't wanna eat was pretty much impossible,
Right.
and because you don't they don't understand,
Well, it's not just that.
and preventing
There's
them
a
from
lot of
eating.
biological things that happen when you get old or older, like over 65. So sarcopenia, everyone knows sarcopenia, right? That actually happens, starts in your late 30s, early 40s. So surprise, it started in me. You can slow the progression. That's what most people equate to. But what most people don't know is what also happens is you start to lose a sense of smell. Your ability to absorb certain vitamins and minerals actually decrease. So that leads to can lead to malnutrition. It's not just they're not eating enough protein, it's just biologically,
Yeah,
physiologically, they are starting to lose the ability to absorb vitamins and minerals and
yeah,
nutrients. They're
and the
losing the
and
sense of
the
smell,
The
taste, all
thirst the
these
thirst
things.
center of the brain
Correct.
also changes, and so a
Correct.
lot of elderly people stop feeling thirsty.
Correct. They start to
So
their decreased sense of thirst. There's a
right,
lot that happens as
they're
you
very
age
easily dehydrated.
that people aren't educated on. I am, just because I have that extra education. That's where I learned all this, but there's a lot at play here that's more than just eat your fat, eat your protein. That helps, but it's just understanding that those changes and knowing how to get around them, because if you don't understand what's happening as you age, then you're not going to be able to fight malnutrition. Registered dietitians aren't taught this.
Right,
They're taught the guidelines predominantly. They're not taught what I they don't know what I know. I'm not saying I'm the all-knowing. I'm just saying, but they're the ones working with seniors, and they
right.
don't understand the biological changes that happen as you age. So how are they supposed to know what the heck to feed them?
Well, they're going by guidelines from
Exactly.
regulatory agencies, and, I mean, I know that in the carnivore community, we talk a lot about how there's not necessarily good science behind those guidelines. There's a lot of bias. There's a lot of,
Religion.
yes. And who's funding the study can have a lot to do with it. Yep. So, I think that just knowing that is the first step. And it may be maybe a little too late for some of these elderly people, but at least we being aware of it can be on the right path to prevention.
Yeah.
Having a mother who had Alzheimer's disease, my siblings and I were like, oh, we don't want to go down that path if we don't have to.
Yeah.
So with your now, what direction is your counseling? Is it more with younger people, or is it more with middle-aged women, or
Yeah.
what is the clientele that
Middle-aged,
you're
women over
focusing on?
40.
Women over 40.
Yeah.
Okay. What sort of special considerations do women over 40 need to be looking at?
Well, outside of just regular aging, I'm trying to hit, well, one, my age group, but I'm trying to hit them
Yeah.
before before they reach that
Yeah.
age. I'm trying to prevent. But yeah, I work with obesity, so I still work with
Okay.
people who need to lose 50 or more pounds.
Mhm.
I have a friend who's trying to refer me someone who has to lose 200 pounds, but I'm focused, you saw my website, so I'm
Yeah.
focused more on emotional eating, disordered eating type things, so my program is centered around that. It's not just if someone comes to me and says, "I have to lose weight," I'm like, "Cool, I'm not for you if that's what you have." Like, my program is centered around emotional eating, disordered eating, those sorts of things
Mhm.
to finally break the cycle, so get to the root cause. So, because I was doing weight loss and diabetes and all that stuff, just putting a Band-Aid to surface level, but now I'm getting
Right.
into the
Okay.
root
So you're
cause, like,
really
not playing
focusing.
psychologist, just like just coaching, behavior change, habit change, and
Okay.
those sorts of things.
Okay. And then I could see the value in that because of the fact that, I mean, when I look at somebody like myself who is morbidly obese and like my top weight was just about 350, that does, there's a lot that you need to a lot of layers to that onion
Yeah,
that need to be peeled back in order to figure out what is the root cause, what started this. And it's often multiple things.
right.
I know for myself, there was a lot of layers there,
Yeah.
and I'm probably still peeling them back.
Yeah. You can do
Yeah.
I promote cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, I don't do the therapy, but you can do, the worksheet, and I actually offer that as a resource in my program because you
Okay.
can Google, like, cognitive behavioral therapy or putting your thoughts on trial worksheet. It's all available on YouTube or, Google. The exact worksheet my therapist actually had me do was actually on Google.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I give as a tool. I do refer people to therapists if it's outside my scope and I don't think I can help them, but
Mhm.
those worksheets are, yes, it's a therapy tool, but it's a tool, um, to help you navigate your journey. It's kind of like, the emotional eating journal I have. It's a tool, but this is focused solely not on food. This putting your thoughts on trial is kind of rewiring and reframing your thinking, um, to help with the food. So that's why I have this program because I'm a firm
Mhm.
believer if to get to the root cause. You can work on the food
Yeah.
all you want, but if there's something going on that's causing your unhealthy thinking, your unhealthy behaviors, your whatever it is, then those are still going to be there. Whether you're low carb, carnivore, keto, it doesn't matter. They're still going to be there. So that's why I say diet can't fix everything. It's a tool, but it's not the only
Yeah.
tool. So if there's a root cause or something else going on, you need to focus on that first.
Right.
Yes, focus on eating healthy and all that stuff, but you need to focus on that first, or else XYZ may not be sustainable because this is not
Yeah.
the only answer. So that's why I focus on that because that worked for me. Like, I went on every single fad diet, nothing worked, nothing. This would have never stuck if I didn't fix my mental health and
Right.
all that stuff. But I fixed my
Right.
mental health. Now I'm able to, focus on my lifestyle and all that stuff. So I'm a firm believer of root cause first,
Yeah.
or else chances of things sticking are slim. Not saying impossible, but it's the
Yeah.
odds will be better.
That's right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one reason why I did one of many reasons why I didn't do gastric sleeve surgery, which my doctor had recommended for me.
Mm,
Um, because I just felt like I'm one of those people that if I did it, I'd probably fail. I'd probably gain all the weight back because I'm not getting to the bottom of why I have this problem in the first place. and I'm grateful that I made the decision not to
Yeah.
do it,
Well, you
but
look great. How much weight have you lost?
so I give 2 numbers because I use my body composition scale. So the actual scale is down 66 pounds,
Woohoo!
and but I've gained 23 pounds of muscle and bone. So my actual fat loss is 89 pounds as of my weigh-in this morning.
Damn, good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And the planks have been phenomenal. I'm doing them every day and recording myself, and one of my family, either my daughter or my husband's timing me, but they've been surprising, to see how, first of all, how hard they are,
Yeah,
but just to also see how in, today's day 22 of how much progress I've made. It's been pretty incredible.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Now I know that you have a fitness plan for yourself as well,
Yeah.
correct? So what are you doing?
So I just recorded a video today. It was my first my gym video and an epic fail. But I
Oh no.
tried. I didn't have the lavalier mic up too, so you couldn't hear me or whatever, so I had to do a voiceover, but I'll do better next time. But today was day 2 of my powerlifting program. I'm doing Train Heroic, one of the programs there. Um but yeah, I'm training for my first power. I've always wanted to do this. So powerlifting is the 3 major compound lifts, so bench press, deadlift, and back squat. So I'm competing spring of 2025, so next year, before I turn 45. So that's my goal, is to do this before I turn 45. Um, but yeah, so I'm working on my strength now. So when I tested, I don't know if anyone in the chat lifts, I don't know, but when I tested a couple years ago, my 1 rep max, which is how many times you can do the lift one time, like
Okay.
your maximum, is 127 pounds on the bench, 212 pounds on the deadlift, and my back squat is weak as hell. Watch that video, you'll laugh at me, it's really bad. But I have bad knees and a
Plenty of room
bad
for
hip,
improvement.
so I don't know if I'm gonna compete in the back squat. So right now, I plan to do powerlifting, but only on the deadlift and bench press, so I just plan to compete in those 2 lifts in my age group.
Okay.
I'm on the fence about the
Well, you don't want to hurt yourself.
yeah, I'm on the if I'm not gonna be able to compete, like, be strong enough,
Yeah.
then I don't know, like, my knee twinged a little bit on just 55 pounds, but I haven't
Mm,
done that movement in so long. So I don't know, I have a little over a year, so I'm hoping to compete in all 3, like, I'm
okay.
praying I can compete in all 3, but, my confidence level is 2, but I
Okay.
have a year and change, so
And so
that's my fitness goal.
are you gonna continue filming your workouts and your videos as
Yeah,
you progress?
I wanna take people on the because it's gonna keep me c accountable, and it's gonna keep
Yeah.
me from not chickening out, because I'm nervous, and I'm nervous I'm gonna chicken out. But yeah, I do plan to record not every workout, but I'm gonna try to record, at least, you know, 1 workout a week. I'll try to get footage. But yeah, I'm
Yeah, nice.
excited. Coach Bronson and Jonathan, so Carnivore Muscle and Coach Bronson, are Coach Bronson wants to coach me,
Oh,
because
cool.
when you do the lift, like, when you actually do the competition, it helps to have a coach, to have things prepared. It'll just make it, like, less stressful. So I might, since he lives across the street from me, I might hire him the end of the year to
Oh,
help me
nice.
with the final prep and stuff, and then Jonathan is helping with, some behind the scenes, like, some workouts and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for them helping me, but yeah, I'm nervous, but I've always wanted to do it, and I've always been I'm strong, so I just need to be competitive and work on form and stuff. But that's my big goal, is to build
Awesome.
strength, and
Yeah.
that's my gift to myself as a treat. Finally reaching my weight fat loss goal, is to compete in my first. So I'm hoping to be at my goal weight, be strong as hell, be lean, the leanest and the strongest I've ever been at the age of 45.
You know what? And I have the same goal. Of course, I'm already 55, so I can't, but I do
You can
have
age backwards.
yeah, well, I don't know if you ever watched my weigh-in videos, but my darn body composition scale still thinks I'm 62. And it drives me nuts. Like
Years
every
old?
years old. Yeah. Not pounds.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
like, seriously, it thinks I'm 62, and every time I look at that, I go, "Seriously, how much weight am I gonna have to lose before my scale actually starts moving my metabolic age closer to my actual age?" But, yeah, I don't know, I don't have an age goal. I just I'm moving towards, this is kind of my year of fitness, focusing
Yay.
on my fitness. And because I've been like pretty much just completely almost bedridden for a year of being out on medical leave. Oh my gosh, so deconditioned.
Yeah.
And my back and my hips and my knees and just, everything from head to toe hurting. And I tell people I even had hair follicle pain, but that was my mast cell disease.
Oh,
Yeah, that was weird. I had hair follicle pain wake me up in the middle of the night because it hurt
that
so
is
much.
weird.
Yeah. Oh, so Susan says her scale says she's 69.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What how old are you actually, Susan?
Oh,
Is that
Susan has a YouTube channel now, by the way.
Oh, is that it?
That's
UK,
it.
USA lady?
UK, USA Lady Meat Heels. Susan, you need to shorten your channel.
Put your put a link in the chat for your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely,
awesome.
definitely subscribe. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have,
Oh, she's 62 and the scale thinks she's 69.
wow. I think
7
a lot
years,
of
just like
people
me.
have fitness goals, this year. I think
Yeah.
this is a year for fitness goals, and yeah, 'cause I know Susie lifts. I know there's a bunch of people in the chat who lift.
Well, you know what when I talked about my fitness goals, which I have never had in my life,
Yeah.
but you know, I basically said like carnivore is no longer out of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And so to have a goal and or set a New Year's resolution related to the carnivore diet is not really pushing myself. Fitness is way outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with a mother who demonized people who were into fitness, literally demonized people who were
Really?
into fitness. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because I mean, it was like late 70s, early 80s. I was in that like junior high age, and the fitness craze was kind of really getting started. People were doing aerobics and Olivia Newton-John,
Oh, man.
and all
Oh,
that.
who was
And
the guy? Who was the guy? Who was the guy with the
Richard
big
Simmons.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Richard Simmons, sweating to the oldies.
Yep.
Yeah. My mother would just call them, health nuts. And she would always say, I don't exercise. I don't exercise. But in reality, she got tons of exercise. She was on her feet all day long
Yeah.
and she was active and busy and doing things. And but she had that so indwelt in my brain that I remember when I was in, I think it was 6th grade, I got in trouble with my gym teacher because she had us indoors doing these like calisthenics on the floor and stuff, and I called her a fitness nut.
I mean,
And she's
yeah,
like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to talk to your teacher that way." So my mom got called in and
that's funny. Whenever sometimes when someone says, "Do you exercise?" I was like, "Yeah, I want extra fries."
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's like, what'd you say?"
Exercise? I thought you said extra
Extra
fries.
fries. There we go. All right. So Joseph says he's 52, gets headaches from eyebrow follicle pains. I don't know anyone else with that issue. Yeah, with me, it's my mast cell activation syndrome that makes me have these weird symptoms and hair follicle pain. I get it. I've experienced it and it's painful. So I don't know if that's the issue, why it would be the issue for you, but that's what it is for me. It's just one of the numerous weird symptoms that I tend to have. So okay, let me just make sure I didn't miss any of these comments. I know someone made a comment earlier about oh, Old New Testament, the Bible, and religion actually promote eating meat over plants.
That's
Um,
true, from what I
yeah,
hear.
I actually did a video on my channel about, is it biblical to eat
Oh, I think I saw
carnivore?
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, and I'm a Christian, but I do have Seventh-day Adventists. My husband has Seventh-day Adventists that are on his side of the family, and they're vegetarians, vegans,
Of
and
course.
so I definitely know the scriptures that they use to
Yeah.
support their diet.
Interesting.
And I don't know if they know the actual true history of where those diet came from under the Seventh-day Adventist, umbrella. But yeah, so my channel, I did this video just basically I was kind of sharing my take on the
Yeah,
scriptures that they use. So, but,
that's cool.
yeah, so awesome. Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you forever. I know I could keep like talking to you and asking you questions, but I know that you are 3 hours
Yes.
later than I am. So I so appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody. Oh, here's a question for me. Hang on before we leave. Okay. What is mast cell disease? Can you give us a layperson's description? Sure. There's more than one mast cell disease, but mine is called mast cell activation syndrome. Basically, we all have mast cells. They're produced in our bone marrow, and they are like the first line of defense of your immune system. So when your body is exposed to something foreign that is considered a threat, your mast cells do something called, they basically dissolve and they release all these chemicals out into your body that kind of coordinate your immune's attack on that foreign item. So people with mast cell disease, they're like with me, with my type, my mast cells are dysfunctional. So if you think about like if you have allergies, so for example, that's because your mast cells have released histamine to go fight whatever you're allergic to. And you feel horrible, right? I mean, a lot of times you get sinus issues, you get, who knows what, depending on what you're allergic to. Um, but my mast cells basically do that and they don't really have a need to. They overreact. And so it makes it so that generally at a baseline level, I feel like I'm coming down with the flu pretty much every day. But it can affect every organ of your body, every part of your body, because you have mast cells everywhere. So, gut issues, skin issues, heart, I might kind of have heart palpitations, urinary issues, joint pain, muscle pain, bone pain. I mean, and they get hair follicle pain. So it's an immune system disease. And that's kind of as close as I can get to layperson, but um, yeah, my immune system's not working properly. And I do talk about it. I haven't talked about it as much on my channel, but I do talk about it on my channel and kind of try to educate a little bit about it because it's actually way more common than originally thought. And a lot of people that have a lot of like weird symptoms that the doctors can't figure out, possibly this should be one of the things to consider is having a mast cell disease, because apparently, from what I'm hearing from the experts, is possibly up to 1 in 6 people actually have it. So there's a lot still. It's kind of hasn't been around or known for very long. But yeah. So if if you're having all sorts of weird symptoms, your doctor can't figure you out. Like I said, I've been to 17 different specialists over the course of my life, and it took me 35 years to get a diagnosis. So hopefully that doesn't take you that long if you have it. But, when I first started having symptoms, nobody knew. Like I react to UV rays, I react to heat, I can react to vibration from music. Makes me dizzy, nauseated. It's just a weird weird illness.
Yeah.
But the carnivore diet has helped. And I think it's just it's been the elimination of the histamine, the foods that are more higher in histamine that have been the key.
Yeah.
So anyways, I hope that answered the question. Let me just kind of make sure I didn't miss anything. You got any scriptures for organ meats or fat? Not off the top of my head. I'll have to think about that. Let's see. Nothing wrong with moving your body, but the stuff you feed it is essential. Yeah. Chair exercises. Yeah. Okay. Susan put her channel down here. All right. So go check out Susan's channel. Okay. It says, thanks, Nicole. I increase the time every time I exercise. Plus I do some old ballet. All right. No, nice, nice. Okay, I think we have another question. Mandel ingesting question. I don't
That
know.
was the Bible thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I'll have to look into that and see. So, okay, awesome. I think we got all the questions
Yay.
here. So, all right. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on and giving us your time. And if any of you feel that you need nutrition coaching and you want to connect with Nicole, I have put links to her website on in the description of this video so you can connect with her and check her out, and she will be hopefully available to help you and your journey as well. All righty. So
Thank you, everyone.
any last minute words, Nicole?
I just want to thank everyone for hanging with us tonight. I know I've been saying this all week, but it's really great to be back. I'm back in the
Yes,
YouTube world. But thank you for hanging with us, and thank you for my new channel members. Yeah, I gifted a couple memberships. So Susie's a new member, and I
nice.
don't know if we have any other new members in the chat, but yeah, shout out to all my channel members too. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Very good. All right. Good night, everybody.